Welcome to This Week in Biochar, where we take a deep dive into the week's top biochar stories that are trending according to readers of Biochar today.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it looks like we have quite a variety of topics this week, from soil science to new tech to even a new business partnership.
Should be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it. Biochar today highlighted a new review in sustainability that looks at the impacts of biochar on soil.
Yeah, that was a good one. It really emphasizes how biochar can improve soil structure.
And what does that mean exactly?
Well, think about it. Like this biochar can actually enhance aggregation.
Aggregation.
Yeah, like how the soil particles clump together. It's important for aeration and root penetration.
Also, it helps the plants breathe and grow deeper roots.
Exactly. And the review also found that biochar improves water management in soil.
Interesting. So how does that work?
Well, biochar has this porous structure that allows it to hold water and release it gradually.
So like a sponge.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah,
This is especially good for sandy soils because they tend to dry out quickly.
makes sense. And what about those heavy clay soils that get all waterlogged?
Well, biochar can help with that too. It improves drainage.
Huh. So it really can adapt to different soil types.
It can. And the review also talked about how biochar can enhance cation exchange capacity, or CEC.
CEC. I'm not familiar with that.
Think of it as the soil's ability to hold onto nutrients. Biochar basically gives the soil more holding power, so nutrients like potassium and magnesium are available to plants for a longer time.
So farmers wouldn't have to use as much fertilizer.
Exactly. It's a win-win for both the farmer and the environment.
Definitely. So this review really points to biochar being a key player in sustainable agriculture.
I think so. It's all about improving soil health and using resources more efficiently.
Now moving on to something completely different, a major partnership that's expanding the biochar market.
You're talking about the Supercritical and Exomad Green partnership.
Yeah, Supercritical is a carbon removal marketplace, and they've teamed up with Exomad Green, the world's largest biochar producer.
It's a big deal. This partnership shows the growing demand for biochar as a carbon removal solution.
So what exactly are they doing together?
Well, Supercritical has secured 130,000 tons of biochar carbon removal from Exomad Green.
130,000 tons. That's huge.
It is, and it's a sign that companies are getting serious about investing in biochar.
So what does this partnership mean for the biochar market?
It's a major step towards scaling up biochar production and meeting that growing demand.
Makes sense. And on top of buying all that biochar, Supercritical is also going to be the exclusive distributor for Exomad Green's 2025 spot market credits.
That's right. They're making it easier for other companies to buy biochar and participate in carbon removal efforts.
So they're breaking down barriers and making biochar more accessible.
They are, and the numbers show just how much biochar is taking off. In 2024, 86% of global carbon removal deliveries were biochar-based.
Wow, that's a huge percentage. And the price of biochar has been steadily rising too.
It has. It's up about 29.2% annually since 2020.
It seems like now is the time to get on board with biochar.
I think so. As demand increases and supply gets tighter, those who embrace biochar early on will be in a good position.
Good point. We've covered a lot of ground in this first segment, everything from soil science to city initiatives to a new business partnership. And it's clear that biochar is making waves in many different areas.
It is. It's a fascinating field with a lot of potential. We were talking about that big partnership between Supercritical and Exomad Green and how it's really shaking up the biochar market.
It's amazing to see how biochar is becoming so sought after, not just as a sustainable solution, but also as a legitimate business opportunity. But like any growing industry, I guess it's important to understand, the complexities involved.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing we touched on earlier was the variability of biochar. Like, it's not just one thing. It really depends on the feedstock and how it's produced.
Right. You mentioned that different feedstocks and different pyrolysis temperatures can create biochar with different properties. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. Imagine building a house. You can use different types of wood. Hardwoods like oak and maple are super strong and durable, while softwoods like pine and cedar are lighter and easier to work with.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It's kind of similar with biochar. Different feedstocks create biochar with different characteristics.
So biochar made from wood waste would have different properties than biochar made from like agricultural waste.
Exactly. For example, biochar made from wood is usually more porous, which means it has more surface area to interact with soil and water, and it generally has more carbon, which is great for carbon sequestration.
And what about biochar made from agricultural residues?
Well, that might have higher nutrient content, which makes it a really good soil amendment.
So how do we know which type of biochar is best for a specific use?
That's where research and analysis come in. Scientists are developing methods to, characterize biochar. They look at things like porosity, nutrient content, pH level, and other properties.
So it's all about finding the right biochar for the right job.
Exactly. We need to match the biochar to the specific needs of the soil, the plants being grown, and the desired outcomes. If a farmer wants to improve water retention in sandy soil, they might choose a very porous biochar.
And if a gardener is looking to increase soil fertility, they might choose a biochar that's rich in nutrients.
Exactly. It's all about strategy.
We've been talking a lot about wood waste and agricultural residues. Are there any other feedstocks that people are looking at for biochar production?
Oh, yeah, definitely. One really interesting area is using municipal solid waste, basically turning our garbage into a resource.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It is. By taking organic waste out of landfills and turning it into biochar, we're tackling two environmental problems at once.
Waste management and climate change.
You got it. It's a perfect example of a circular economy.
I love that. And it's not just about soil health and carbon sequestration either.
Yeah.
People are exploring new and innovative uses for biochar all the time.
Oh, absolutely. One area that's getting a lot of attention is using biochar in construction material.
Really? Like what?
Think about incorporating biochar into concrete bricks, even insulation.
So you're saying we could build houses with biochar?
It's a real possibility. Biochar can make building materials stronger, more durable, and better at insulating. And it can even reduce the carbon footprint of construction.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
It seems like biochar has limitless potential. You mentioned earlier that biochar can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture. How does that work exactly?
Well, when organic matter decomposes in soil, it releases methane and nitrous oxide, which are potent greenhouse gases.
Hmm.
But if we convert that organic matter into biochar through pyrolysis, we're essentially locking that carbon away.
So instead of contributing to climate change, we're helping to reverse it.
Right. And remember, biochar also helps improve soil health, which can reduce erosion and runoff. And that runoff often carries pollutants into waterways.
So biochar is protecting our rivers and lakes too.
It's all connected. We talked earlier about how Supercritical is making it easier for businesses to buy biochar. But what about everyday people? Can we buy biochar for our gardens or houseplants?
I was just thinking that.
Absolutely. You can find biochar at garden centers, online retailers, even some hardware stores.
That's great to hear. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in using biochar in their gardens.
I think so. And as more people start using it, we'll probably see it become even more readily available.
So let's say I'm a gardener and I want to start using biochar. What should I do?
Well, first, you need to choose the right biochar for your needs. You got to think about your soil type, what you're growing, and your goals for your garden. Are you trying to improve water retention, boost fertility, or improve drainage?
So someone growing vegetables might need a different kind of biochar than someone growing succulents.
Exactly. Different plants have different needs, and some biochars are better suited for specific purposes. So do your research and choose wisely.
Okay, I've got my biochar. Now what?
Time to get your hands dirty. You can mix it into your existing soil or just apply it as a top dressing. Start with a small amount and see how your plants respond.
Any other tips?
Remember that biochar can absorb water from the soil, especially at first. So make sure to water your plants well after you apply it. And most importantly, don't be afraid to experiment. Gardening is all about trial and error.
That's great advice. This whole deep dive into biochar has been really eye-opening. It's amazing to think that something that was once considered waste can now be used to improve soil health, clean water, reduce emissions, and even build houses.
It really is a testament to human ingenuity and our ability to find solutions to these pressing environmental challenges. And the research and innovation happening in this field is just going to keep pushing things forward.
Before we move on, I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier about biochar's role in addressing climate change. It seems like it offers a multi-pronged approach.
It does. By sequestering carbon in the soil, we're actually removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And by reducing greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture and waste management, we're preventing more emissions from being released.
It's like a double whammy against climate change.
I like that analogy. It really captures the essence of what biochar can do. And as we move towards a more sustainable future, biochar is going to be a key part of the solution.
This has been a really insightful conversation. We've learned so much about the potential of biochar. We've journeyed from those tiny soil particles all the way to biochar-enhanced cities, and even talked about building houses with biochar. It's been quite a ride.
It has. We've really seen the scope of biochar's potential and how it's making an impact across so many areas.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to get your take on what stood out to you most from this week's deep dive into the world of biochar.
Well, for me, it's the sheer versatility of biochar. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's more like a platform technology with so many applications, from agriculture to wastewater treatment to construction to carbon markets. It's incredibly adaptable.
It's like a Swiss Army knife for sustainability.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that it tackles multiple environmental challenges at the same time. By improving soil health, we can increase food security and reduce our reliance on synthetic fertilizers. And by sequestering carbon, we can help fight climate change. Plus, cleaning wastewater protects our water resources.
It really is a holistic approach to sustainability, addressing all these interconnected issues.
It is, and what's really exciting is to see how scientific advancements, technological innovation, and market forces are all coming together to push biochar forward. We've got groundbreaking research opening up new possibilities, entrepreneurs creating innovative solutions, and investors recognizing the potential for both environmental and economic returns.
It feels like we're on the verge of a biochar revolution.
I think so. The momentum is definitely building.
This deep dive has definitely made me optimistic about the future. But it's important to remember that biochar isn't a magic bullet. It's a tool, and we need to use it wisely and responsibly.
Absolutely. We need to think about the entire life cycle of biochar, from where the feedstocks come from, to how it's produced, to how it's used, and even what happens to it at the end of its life.
Sustainability is all about making informed decisions, understanding the trade-offs, and constantly looking for ways to improve.
Couldn't agree more. And that includes staying up to date on the latest developments in biochar. For those who want to learn more, I highly recommend checking out Biochar today. They offer in-depth coverage of all things biochar, from news and research to industry trends.
It's a great resource for anyone who wants to dig deeper.
It is, and I encourage everyone to think about how biochar could fit into their own lives. Whether that's supporting businesses that use biochar, using it in their gardens, or simply advocating for its wider adoption.
This has been a fantastic journey through the world of biochar.
I always enjoy talking about a topic with so much potential for a better future.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on This Week in Biochar. We hope you've gained a better understanding of just how powerful biochar can be in creating a more sustainable world. Stay curious, stay engaged, and keep exploring. Until next time.